Toni beti sola ibuloke da toni betoto
Bege gongo
Lamin
na
Lamin te jibe norin te nyame Lamin
kamana
wulo kono nyitte mo Lamin
pabilenki
muna ngata afamole
hayna
ngata ngoto le fabrama
mingi baba nyola
ngoto le fabrama
namu jumala kan kuma ni ten
fabrama
jumala mu
ndele bare muso
lunda mana
mo kata
jamani mbere
lindo ko
jamani
bari ngoto mon kontande
bari jamani bana na ramudu wa mon kontan
ngoto minaka ngala min je fom filitala Lamin jibe nori nyala
Lamin ida siran sama ne benki yala so tol sayni no ko ngol ko momo
ngoto
nam
iterinte yalo ne Lamin hakkilo diata bake karambugoto anu santen ministry ko di ngole si suoko na amanke ko do holiday
si bitun
bagona de
ala ni nyab ala ni ko kede namo balo
ala ni na ko ina karta bulo be dam ala ni je
ngoto
nam
ngoto mon kontan feren
jamani mu ne keda
ife ke Lamin ki wulo ko no nyintay mon ko do fete malo Lamin nyande sila la be la moy kala karango
jamani karam mo be soron ne ko fasita wulo ko nako
karambugol ma soron ni ko karango ko holiday lem ngoto dini ngo nyanta sila la ala karango la moy yamen kamen fue man kontan andamande
alla nyin kombo courant adanda la kombo len do la jankara mol soron do kamen courant ma do la kombo e don dol fana karam mol soron je karam mol soron Lamin ada lo nyino la aman tara fe na sokon ala mu nekela
Lamin ite foyde malon ko lesinol be ke kar radio to
nga fine
e ko nyani ani mo Lamin ya mu na fonye
bir kabin mina kan tambita nteri maning Fatu tambite la sukala ala diningol bebe siri be la moyka
faru dan so am fana tambira jele ni subala la ngaje diningol be jet talanta nen kili warol e be seri jelet
sa Lamin fadante ku kili ko keno la ba Lamin bitaka wulo ko no nyinta mo Lamin
aman dara fenela
ite dine ko di man si yakari lesino la moy radio to e balon na
mu ne ka ke afonde ma nyara ni dalon
telentel jikot
afonde ma mu ne be ke
ite balon tel be jikritel ni man karam be ku kele yaje nata karana mbasa malaya ay tarije
par ñarande kombo courant ho findira kombo ide na rajede ni sonka bay ko Lamin ma nyata la wulo ko karam mo be so da fane membe
ko to wole nati bawo ngalle ni Lamin kuntala kombo courant o ka fa me kombo courant asototal wala kinay ko e si suwo kono bari ni ko e si suwo kono be karangol dike la radio ni telel to hani tele masoto to nyaay man tele soto da bongo bar radio be bulen koto batiri sanga ay si ay alamo
sa do kala
nyaadi ko ta ro bulaji
abe kala nyaadi
kamun ke nyaadi
radio abe wala moy la be mona falaje
ibe la karandirol kala jele
ti talle be radio ko men ka karamo
ila subject no baby jele baby jele
wala nan ka coco moy fa dan so wolya ngombe tambi ka ngadi ni wolde be ikadum bungo ko kada maro mo
asototal de
Lamin mala be kara wala de
bari
laftalal ideal on ko inde every year second wala fourth
muna ni ko nde ko folle sinila mba ndele sinilo ne ba
mba foke en koto wole fango yen wulindi yalo famo keta bat ñu fadam bulata ko ko me yen nati jambi Lamin nyanta karana ndel be jiko be nyineka ya bulay kara wulo kana ta kilar ya bambalo yo be bulaje koto dinni ngoy si ayala lesino la moy radio
wara ka munda karamo man soro Lamin nyanta kara si so na regular
la silale ayala lesino
ndal ko korna ko smalo
kilar ya
be ngala ko momo sa imbe do ni ko kera
nengi bruso
ndal ko la da ba rosa no radio ba no bari woro radio ni abe jele ba do ngamro do man nembe buljan dala nyara nyar wo fram ko fendi mo la Lamin tayra ba rosa
bara te ku folo ajibe nori nya Lamin tamete ku
teku
bari ko do famo ke
imagine nañu ñambol si zol le keje kisigi man si zol no le kafun ka ñoma bari ñambu kino ni mañana ka finde ni nambe ko zol la jang
ngalle limbeta de be ñambo do dilanna
ñara nim ko ridim fennat jara nata
bari famo ke da
ngata bungono tambi bungono ñara mel ngando ko fele ko ke e baru nganda ni pelo la ndija
iyo awa be la
bungono bismillah bisu diara
pendulala ye fongo tanka sina dolu tanka koro ta koro
Hello viewers and listeners. Here we are once again on Integrated Studies or Science LBS Lesson 7. Our topic today is the digestive system. But before we go on to our lesson proper, we had a homework that we are supposed to finish up before today. There were 2 questions that I gave you on our previous lesson, of which we are going to look at today. The first one say, name 2 activities that cause problems to our natural resources. Name 2 activities that cause problems to our natural resources. 2 only. Our answers, possible answers could be cutting down trees, burning down trees, another one could be soil erosion. Any of these you put together, 2 of them is correct. Number 2, the cutting down of trees without replacing them is called what? The cutting down of trees without replacing them is what we call deforestation. D-E-F-O-R-E-S-T-A-T-I-O-N, deforestation. Right? So these were the homework, the assignment that we had last time. Now, we go to lesson proper, the digestive system. When we say the digestive system, we are going to look at the organs that make up the digestive system and what is the digestive system all about. The digestive system is all about the food that we eat, how do we eat it, and how the body uses it, is what we call digestive system. The digestive system contains a long tube inside our body that starts right from the mouth down to the anus. It is through this long tube where the food that we eat passes from one stage to another, from one organ to another, until it comes out. Now, that process is what we call the digestive system. The functions of the digestive system is to get the useful substances. Okay? The useful substances that is in the food into our body. The body needs those substances that are found in the food to be utilized in the body. So therefore, that process is what we call digestive system. The tube or tract of the digestive system is divided into several parts or organs. You have several parts or organs that is in this digestive system. If you look at the diagram here, you have it start from the mouth. You can see the long tube. That long tube, the linking the mouth and the small bag there is what we call the esophagus or the gullet. Some people call it esophagus, some people call it gullet. The gullet or the esophagus is the pipe, is a tube that links the mouth to the stomach. The stomach is a small bag in the left-hand side of your body. Underneath the stomach, you have small tract or small tubes there. They are called the small intestines. as they bear, the small intestine. After the small intestine, it goes on to the large intestine, that's the big one. Then after the big one, then it gets down to a small bag again called the rectum. Then finally it gets out of the body through the anus. Now this long tube is what we meant by the digestive tract, or the tract of the digestive system. Parts or organs of the digestive system and their functions. The food that we eat, we first put it in our mouth. Also, in the mouth, there are three organs that are in the mouth that are involved in the digestive system. The teeth, the salivary gland, and the tongue. These are the three organs found in the mouth which are taking care of the digestion in mouth. The teeth, we use the teeth to put food into small pieces in the mouth. When you put the food in the mouth, the first action is to chew the food. The chewing of the food is done by the teeth. That's the first digestion. That's the first digestion where it starts. So the teeth, they grind the food into smaller pieces. When you grind the food into smaller pieces, what happens? The salivary gland is an organ under your tongue that will release what we call saliva. It releases what we call saliva. This saliva is a watery, slippery water. It's very slippery. It's water that comes out under your tongue, which is very slippery. When it comes, it will join the food in the mouth, and there it will start digesting carbohydrates. And finally, after chewing and the salivary gland releases the saliva, it will mix with the food and makes the food wet and moisten, or wet or moisten, and make it slippery for easy swallow. Then finally the tongue will roll. The tongue will roll, or the tongue rolls the food into balls, and we pass it onto our stomach through a long tube called the gullet. From the mouth, now the food will be passed to the stomach through the gullet. Now in the tongue, there are also other organs called the taste buds. These taste buds are on the tongue, one at the tip of your tongue, the other underneath. These taste buds, they tell us or give us sense of what we call sweet, sense of sour, and sense of salt or bitterness. It is the taste buds on our tongue that help us to say, this is salty, or this has a bitter taste, or this is sour, or this is sweet. It is the taste buds that help us to sense that. Once the food is put in the mouth, the teeth will grind the food into smaller pieces. The salivary glands will release the saliva, and it will come out and start digesting the carbohydrates. The tongue will roll the food, while the taste buds will tell us what sense the food is all about, whether it is sweet, whether it is salty, whether it is peppery, or whatever. Then finally it will be passed through the long tube, what we call gullet, and then it goes where? It comes to the stomach. The next stage of this digestion now is the stomach. When we swallow food, it goes through the gullet into the stomach. And I said the stomach is a small bag on the left-hand side of your body. In the stomach, digestion also continues there. Digestion in the stomach, juices are added on the food to make the nutrients more soluble. In the stomach, juices are added. That is, there is a leaf-like structure under the stomach called the pancreas. This pancreas will releases the pancreatic juice, and it will go into the stomach and continue breaking down this food into smaller particles. And of course, in the stomach again, if you look at the walls of the stomach, they are rough. The walls of the stomach are rough. Now, the food that we eat now that has already landed in the stomach will keep turning. It will keep turning upside down, round and round, round and round. And the walls of the stomach, they are so rough. Once the food is turning round and round, it is also breaking into more soluble particles. Not only the digestive system, two actions takes place there. The food is turning round and around in the stomach. The rough walls of the stomach will break the food into more tiny particles. And the stomach, the pancreatic juice also will release what we call pancreatic juice. The pancreas will release the pancreatic juice, and it will be poured onto the food and make the food more soluble or more digested. From the stomach, where does the food goes into? From the stomach, the food will get into the small intestine. In the small intestine, juices are also added on the food for more digestion. That is for the food to be more soluble, for the food to become more tiny, for the food to become more watery. In this small intestine, this is where the food nutrients are absorbed. It is in the small intestine where the food nutrients are absorbed. The food nutrients are what we call the good part of the food. The reason why we are eating food, the good part of that food, it is in the small intestine where the body will absorb it. Here, in the small intestine, there are linings on the walls of the small intestine. The minerals, the vitamins, the proteins, the carbohydrates that the food contains now is going to join in those lines, and the blood will carry it to all parts of our body. All parts of our body, from the hairs up your head right down to your toes, needs these vitamins, they need these minerals, they need these proteins, they need these carbohydrates. So it is the blood that will come from the small intestine to the rest of the body. Now, the good part of the food now is taken by the body through the blood. Where does the rest go? The rest will go now to the large intestine. Large intestine. The rest will now move on to the large intestine. Now, in the large intestine, it says from the small intestine, the rest of the food and water is passed on to the large intestine. Now, what is passed on to the large intestine is no more needed by the body. Part of the food, the fibers, or the part of the food that is not wanted by the body, that is now coming down to the large intestine. It will, of course, go along with water. And in the large intestine, it will now try to solidify, to compact together. In the large intestine, the water and the rest of the food now will try to solidify, to compact together, to make it hard. And finally, what happened? The rest is also passed to what we call the rectum. To the rectum. The rectum, that is saying the part of the food that the body does not use is stored in the rectum. It is in this rectum where the unwanted or undigested food is stored. It is going to be kept there for some times, and finally it is released through what we call the anus. It is finally exposed or removed through the organ called anus. The part of the food or the undigested food that we are removing out, or that we removed from the body, is called feces. That part of food, undigested food, is called feces, and feces could be dangerous because they contain bacteria. Feces could be dangerous because they contain bacteria. That's why most of the time we should keep away from these feces. When children defecate, we should throw the feces into the toilet rather than leaving it exposed. So to summarize what we have said, we said digestion or digestive system. This is the system or the collective organs that are responsible for the food that we eat, so that the body can get the best part of the food. The digestive system is a long tract, we said, right from the mouth down to the anus. And this long tract is in stages, that is from the mouth to the stomach, from the stomach to the small intestine, from the small intestine to the large intestine, from the large intestine to the rectum, from the rectum to the anus. These are the stages. And in the mouth, the organs that are found in the mouth are teeth, salivary glands, and tongue. The teeth chew the food into smaller pieces. The salivary gland release saliva, of which is water, which is slippery, that will make the food moisten, or that will moisten the food and make it slippery for easy swallowing. And the tongue will be responsible, or the tongue is responsible for rolling the food into balls so that we can swallow it. When we swallow the food will pass through a long tube or tract called the stomach, right? And this stomach is a small bag on our left-hand side of the left-hand side of our body. In this stomach, digestion continues. In this stomach, there are two actions that takes place there. Digestive juices are added into the stomach to break the food into more soluble. And secondly, the walls of the stomach are so rough that the food keeps turning. While the food is turning, it is also breaking into more tiny particles. And finally, when it is done in the stomach, the food goes into the small intestine. When it gets into the small intestine, that's where almost all the digestion action stop. The digestion action stop here simply because the reason why we are eating the food is to get the good part of the food into our body. Now it is in this small intestine where the good part of the food is taken into the body. The food is a good part of the food, or the nutrients of the food, is absorbed in this small intestine. This small intestine has linings on the walls, of which the blood will carry all the nutrients that are in this food. The nutrients could be minerals, the nutrients could be vitamins, the nutrients could be proteins, they could be carbohydrates, you name them. Now all these things now will be collected from the small intestine, and the blood will carry it to all parts of our body, right from the hairs on our head down to our toes. Every part of our body needs this good part of the food, that is the nutrients. Then the rest of the food, the undigested food, or the undigested part of the food, now will move down to the large intestine. In this large intestine, that's where the water and the rest of the food will be passed on to. When they get into this large intestine, that's where they become solid. They solidify, or they compact together and be a solid, sort of semi-solid. Then finally, it is now passed again onto a small bag called the rectum. This rectum is a small bag before the anus. It will be stored there for a certain period of time until at one time we feel uncomfortable. That's the time you hear, I want to go to the toilet. I want to ease myself. When that's the time now we go to the toilet and we remove it out. What we remove out is the undigested food, the unwanted part of the food that we are going to remove to the toilet through an organ called the anus. Through an organ called the anus. The undigested food, I said, that we remove out from the into the toilet is called feces. And these feces could be dangerous because they contain bacteria. These feces could be dangerous because of bacteria. Right? So digestion, that's all about digestion. Digestion is the breaking down of food into some smaller particles for the body to be able to absorb. Digestion is the breaking down of food into smaller particles for the body to be able to absorb. I think you will take note of that. Right? So we move. We have an exercise here. This exercise is in 5 questions, of which we are going to do together. Number 1 reads, digestion starts from dash dash and ends in dash dash. Where do the digestion starts and where does it end? If you look at our chain here, you can see mouth to stomach, stomach to small intestine to large intestine to rectum, rectum to anus. So here in our answer we can say digestion starts from the mouth. Digestion starts from the mouth and ends in the anus. So the 2 possible answers there is from the mouth, starts from the mouth and ends in the anus. That's number 1. Number 2, the long track from the mouth to the stomach is called what? The long track from the mouth to the stomach is called dash dash. That is the long tube from the mouth to the stomach. What is the name? It is called the gullet. It is called the gullet. Some other books say esophagus. O-S-O-P-H-A-G-U-S. Gullet or esophagus. Any of them is correct. Number 3. What is the function of the teeth in the digestive system? What is the function of the teeth in the digestive system? What do we say? The teeth is the first. That's what the teeth is the first one that starts the digestion. So the teeth, the function of the teeth is to chew food. Is to chew the food or to grind the food into smaller particles. Is to chew the food into smaller particles or to grind it. Chew the food into small particles. Okay? Number 4. What is added to the food in the stomach or intestine to break the food into more soluble particles? We said when the food gets into the stomach and in the small intestine, there are something that is added there. That one is called what we call chemical digestion. Now this is where juices are added. Okay? In number 4, what is added to the food in the stomach or small intestine to break the food into more soluble particles, we say juices are added. Digestive juices. Digestive juices are added. Then number 5, where is the undigested food stored? Where is the undigested food stored? That is, where is the unwanted part of the food kept into before we finally remove it out? It is stored in the rectum. It is stored in the rectum. It is stored in the rectum. Your first answers are: digestion starts from the mouth and ends in the anus. Number 2, the long tract from the mouth to the stomach is called the gullet or esophagus. Number 3, what is the function of the teeth in the digestive system? The function of the teeth in the digestive system is to chew food into smaller particles. Number 4, what is added to food in the stomach or intestine to break the food into smaller particles? It is the digestive juices. And number 5, where is the undigested food stored? The undigested food is stored in the rectum before finally removed out from the anus into the toilet. Then the assignment. Assignment here is saying, number 1, name the 3 organs of the digestive system. Name the 3 organs of the digestive system. Name 3 organs of the digestive system. The organs of the digestive system are here. You name only 3. Number 2, which organ of the digestive system rolls the food into balls? Which organ of the digestive system rolls the food into balls? Give me the name. Number 3, does chew the food into smaller pieces? Does chew the food into smaller pieces? What chews the food into smaller pieces? What chews or chew the food into smaller pieces? Give me the name. Number 4, does moistens the food? Does moistens the food? What moistens or moistens the food? That is, what makes the food wet? Number 5, when we swallow food, it goes through the gullet into the, when we swallow food, it goes through the gullet into the, give me that organ. So this is your assignment. Try the questions before we meet once again. Thank you very much.